and welcome to week 2 of Intentional Relationships for Singles. Why relationships fail. I don't know about you, Dan, but I've never had a relationship to ever fail. But that's a big topic because before we can go into how to have our relationships improve, we need to also talk about why they fail. So what is one of the biggest reasons?
Well, we talk about 4 different reasons in the book, but one of the big ones, I think, is unrealistic expectations. And I think people set themselves up for failure to start with sometimes when they have standards that are way too high. Now, I'm not saying that if your standards are warm and breathing, that's okay, but I'm saying that if your standards are they have to make X amount of money, they have to have this color hair, they have to drive this kind of car, if you have a certain beauty standard that's 10.5 on every woman that comes in your way, then you're going to find it much more difficult to find a happy, healthy relationship, because out of the world where there might be 10 million people available for you to date, there's 3 that fit your categories. So that's one. I also think people have unrealistic expectations when it comes to what somebody's like. Like, we're always attracted to somebody's strengths. Like, maybe somebody is super organized. But a lot of organized people also are kind of black and white thinkers because they know how things should fit in certain boxes. And so you like the organizational part, but you hate the fact that they're black and white in thinking. I think personalities sometimes turn us off when we don't realize that people are a complete package. They have strengths and weaknesses. We don't get 100% perfection on every person. We also have to accept who they are and with grace.
Yeah, I know when I was young, I had a list because we're all told, make out your list and pray over it and claim it. And then as you get older, you're like, well, because as I've gotten older, I've had to realize that maybe I'm not have everything the way would you date yourself? I don't, and so I've gotten older. I've changed a little bit in that area. But, I look at unrealistic expectations, Dan, also in our friendships. Also in people we work with. What do we expect from our bosses, from our coworkers? What do we expect from our friends? What do we expect from our neighbors? Like, I want perfect neighbors. I want neighbors that never have loud parties and help me out. And so I think unrealistic expectations affects us in all different areas of our life, not just romance. But what's another big one?
Well, another big one is trust. We need trust. It's the bedrock of every relationship. And so we build trust when we're learning to get to know somebody and building a relationship. But it's easier to destroy trust than you realize. Sometimes we come into a relationship with a little bit of fear because of a past failure we've had. And so we might be a little bit expecting someone to let us down. That already can put roadblocks in a relationship. But simple things like maybe in a relationship we want it so bad that we give our heart away too fast. Yeah. And when we do that and someone breaks that trust, it devastates us.
Mm-hmm. But even trust in family relationships, often, like I do a lot of healing ministry with specifically women, and you'll hear from them and say, I had a situation where, something happened to me as a child, they were sexually abused, or they had a friend to betray them, or maybe they were in a marriage and their spouse cheated on them. And so that aspect of trust is so broken and so hurt. It's literally, they have a hard time even trusting God, much less trusting people. And so we know this is one of the biggest reasons why relationships fail. But we also talk about, good old-fashioned sin.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm perfection. So I have to own up to my mess. Yep. And you have to own up to your mess. And so I'm responsible for some of the reasons why my relationships don't work out, because of my own failure, my own things that I do in my life. And some of it's due to my insecurities, some of it's due to my past, some of it's due to, again, the unrealistic expectations. But some sin is mine, but then some sin is other people's, right, Dan?
That's true. In fact, that's what we find out when we're getting to know somebody. People are broken, and sometimes the brokenness is something that you can deal with in a relationship. You can work past. Sometimes the brokenness is so significant that it breaks the relationship you have with them. We talk about in the book too, sometimes it's not you, it's not me, it's the enemy. We have an enemy. God has an enemy, and he's trying to destroy our relationships. It says he came to steal, kill, and destroy. So he doesn't want you to be successful. You ever had a relationship where things seem to be going well and all of a sudden crazy weird things happen from out of the blue to try and destroy it? Somebody else comes from the outside that's trying to meddle with it and hurt you. we do have an enemy. We have to realize we got to pray against that and work through that and recognize it so it doesn't destroy our relationships.
You need to be close enough to God so that you hear his voice over the lies of the enemy. And so this whole chapter 2 is why relationships fail. I want you to take that extra time to look at your own life and examine, am I the cause of why they're failing? Am I the cause of why I can't keep a job and I don't get along with my workmates? Or, people maybe say some of the same things, you do this, or this is how you can be, or whatever. And if you hear that from more than one person, you might be going, wait a minute, maybe that I am the problem. Or, maybe I need to get some counseling, Dan, because I've been betrayed so much, I've been hurt so much, or you've never completely dealt with that betrayal. And before you can move on and be able to have a healthy, any kind of relationship, that needs to be the first thing that you confront. Another big part of this chapter, Dan, is, and I think the whole study, the 12-week study, is our focus. I know we're talking about why relationships fail, but I find often that we're so self-focused that we're not really kingdom focused.
That's right.
So all of our relationships should always be about the kingdom. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Well, God calls us to love him and love our neighbor as ourselves. In fact, Paul in Galatians, he's quoting Jesus, and he goes, the greatest commandment is this: love your neighbor as yourself. And so if you realize what he's saying is, you can't love your neighbor as yourself unless you've already loved God. So a very important part of your relationships, your intentional relationships, is going to be your relationship with the Lord, because he will tell you when you're wrong. He will tell you when you may need to apologize to somebody or give grace to somebody. God will help you build your relationships and grow your relationships. So make sure that that is the priority in all of your relationships.
So we're excited.
Yep.
We're on this journey again. Keep
this
going.
This is going to be a good week. You're going to have some great discussion questions. Make sure you share to your comfort level, because we're getting a little vulnerable at this point. So we hope you have a great discussion this week, and we'll see you next week.